From the John Nevada Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, June the 11th, the year 2018. And now, here they are, with a big summer smile on their face because the sun is shining at last, Jim and Rich.
Are you perky?
Perky. Bob Perky?
Bob Perky. There we go. Let's go back and do a little baseball trivia. Bob Perky.
Bob Perky, Cincinnati Reds mainly, I think.
Yeah, I
but
think
I think
so.
He was with the Pirates and
too.
maybe the Cardinals. Or
Yeah.
Good pitcher. I think
Yeah.
Bob Perky maybe came close to winning 20 at one time.
I think he may have had a 20-game season. He also may have had a 20-game loss season, or 20-loss season.
I don't
too.
think he ever had that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Bob Friend, who did that.
Bob Friend was a guy that they trotted out there, especially when he started with the Pirates. The Pirates were terrible, and he evidently was a very good pitcher because they kept trotting him out there, and he kept getting decisions, but a lot of them were losses.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the Pirates in the late 50s, early 60s got to be a more competitive club, Bob Friend's pitching stats changed. But I think Bob Friend actually has close to 200 wins and a little over 200 losses, or he's got a little over 200 wins and over 200 losses. But he had a lot of wins, a couple with many losses, which tells me he was really a good pitcher.
Yeah.
For a guy to be trotted out there that often.
Back in those days, you go out there
That's
every,
what they did.
You were out there every fourth day,
yeah.
And you stay out there for 7-8 innings, or 9.
Or 9. Jeez, that wasn't too much of a burden to be out there for 9.
No. A couple of housekeeping things to deal with right off the bat, as we just talked briefly. If anybody is listening to this hour-long extravaganza and you were in the class of 1969 at Ridgewood, or know of somebody in the class of 1969 in Ridgewood, we've got a reunion coming up in September of 2019.
Oh, so that was September of 2019.
September 2019.
I didn't know we had set the date, but that's good.
That's the date they're shooting for. It's going to be
Is it going to be a month-long party?
It's going to be a 2-night extravaganza.
Oh, an extravaganza.
An extravaganza. The plans right now are a sock hop experience.
That sounds really cool. I like that.
I'm
definitely showing up now.
We're talking...
I was 50-50 before.
We're talking... We're talking hot dogs from Gina Jude's.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking pizza from Vince's.
Hey, sounds good.
Hey, this is... and then Saturday night, I guess, is going to be a more formal thing. We will find out what's on the plans, as I think Joe Bonfiglio is looking into that.
Jim, you know what? When you talked about the food part of it, and
I knew that would get your attention.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes because people obviously have thought about this and done work that I haven't done. But a few years ago, I got invited to a reunion of it was a sophomore football team from 1970, and they had it at Ridgewood in the cafeteria. Joni Scarpelli was a member of that class, and the football team as well as the cheerleaders were invited. And Joni and Rose Rundgren, Rose Costable, brought Original Joe's Subway sandwiches. And Jim, let me tell you something. Whatever recipe, I mean, it's a sandwich. I know there's not a recipe.
I know,
but you know what? The bread, everything tasted... It was like, what would you call it, a flashback, because it tasted exactly like the Original Joe's did. And I'm thinking, man, you know what? You talk Gene and Jude's, you talk Vince's Pizza, but man, what a way to have, what a thing to have at our reunion, to get a hold of Joni and say, hey, you know what? We need a couple hundred of sandwiches here.
Yeah. Other thing that I want to bring up. And it was kind of an interesting thing, and I was following it on Facebook over the weekend. A gentleman that we have had here as a guest became the answer to a trivia question over the weekend.
Was it Al Marks?
No. Roger Badish
Roger.
delivered the last regular newscast from Tribune Tower.
Oh,
The
wow.
news department has moved over to their new building at 303 East Wacker, and 1:30 a.m. Monday morning in the Showcase studio, Roger delivered the final newscast
Wow.
from Tribune Tower.
What,
The
then
new-
did he have to run over to the other place and do the rest of the...
No, his shift was on Sunday. He goes until 1:30.
Oh, okay.
And at 2 a.m., somebody else takes over. And they still have the studio. The only studio that's working is the Showcase studio on Michigan Avenue. And they delivered the station ID, and he stayed in the studio just to make sure that everything went. And they pushed news, and it came up over at the new location.
Wow.
So Roger is the answer to a trivia question. Who delivered the last newscast at the Tribune Tower Studios?
that's a good... That's a trivia question not many people are going to be able to answer.
That's right. And he's very proud of the fact that he's part of that history
Okay.
after all those years.
That's good.
You know, that WGN went from the Tribune Tower many years ago
1961 out to Bradley Place.
out to Bradley Place, and I was one of the installers because I worked for Illinois Bell, and I was one of the installers that did the work over there. And then they moved out of Bradley Place
back
downtown. Now they moved again
Yeah, well, the building has been sold.
to Tribune Tower.
Tribune Tower has been sold. Tribune Tower is going to become condominiums.
Jeez.
And they are going to build some huge building behind it, too.
How many condominiums do we need in Chicago?
Hey, I don't know. But
Well-
yeah, that's going to be developed into condominiums, and yeah, the building was sold.
Then that was quite a tradition, the Tribune Tower.
Yeah,
Tribune Tower, and across the street, the Wrigley Building.
yeah,
Now that they're playing with the Fire Academy.
yeah.
Now they're supposed to build. I don't know if that thing went through or not. I
don't
haven't
know
heard.
about that either.
But they're supposed to, and the Fire Academy is a landmark.
Well, it's interesting too with the Tribune Tower. The lobby itself has landmark status, so even after that's converted to condominiums, allegedly, they cannot touch anything in the lobby because you have all the plaques and the other things. And I'm wondering on the outside, because on the outside, Colonel McCormick had bits of historical buildings that were actually embedded into the wall on the side wall of Tribune Tower. There was part of the Great Wall of China, I think, that I can remember. I discovered that years ago when I was going to school downtown and walking around with a camera one day and discovered all these things in the Tribune Tower.
And WGN Television, they first started there in the Tribune
Right.
Tower also.
Right.
And up on top was their antenna.
Right.
Yeah.
And
In fact-
Colonel McCormick, when he lived in his mansion downtown, if he couldn't get the picture in right, he called one of the engineers and told him to come over. What? Yeah, I see. Yeah, the picture over there. Yeah, both. of the
I thought
pictures.
John was pointing to the little Cubs pennant up there.
I thought that was what his first thing was. I'm going, what does that have to
Hey,
do
we're
with it?
supposed to be talking about the Cubs here? No.
But I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, and Roger put some interesting videos up on over the weekend as he was making his final walk to Tribune Tower, and he was complaining. And I think he was more upset about the fact that he couldn't park for free anymore.
That sounds about right.
And there was always a joke, but he actually used it. There is the elevator in Tribune Tower that doesn't know where it is. You get on this one elevator in the lobby on Tribune Tower, and you look up at the top to see what floor you're on. It says you're on the second floor. You push the button to go to 7, where the studios were. It goes up. The number on the stand above there is 8. The number on the side says 7. So he had to have a video of the elevator that doesn't know where it is.
That's that. I'd like to see that.
So that was some interesting stuff. So Roger hangs out with cool. I always tell Roger he hangs out with cool people and does cool stuff.
Yeah.
So, what's on your mind?
I don't know. My mind is spinning now with all this information. I'm telling you.
I know. So is do we decide that have we decided yet that the $126 million they're spending on Yu Darvish is a waste?
Well, Joe Madden's got the right attitude. He says, you know what, this is a long ways from being decided, and let's just. But I have to say, enough. I'm not going to get on the knock Yu Darvish bandwagon, but Jake Arrieta he's just a stud, man. I mean, when that guy's on the mound, that he's going to battle. Okay, every step of the way. Geez, Jim, I'm sorry you brought up Yu Darvish though, because I was going to look at Yu Darvish's record. I mean, Yu Darvish has been in the big leagues now for what, 5, 6 years, 7 years, maybe,
something like that.
And he, again, this is not a anti-Yu Darvish type of a statement, but when some of these guys are so overrated and have done so, I'm not going to say so little, but have not done enough to warrant, the types of things that are said about them. I don't think Yu Darvish has more than 60 wins in the time that he's been in Major League Baseball. Are you getting to him?
I gotta fire up the.
You gotta fire it up.
I gotta fire up the mobile hotspot first, because I'm old. I can't read things very well anymore. I'm gonna use my.
Well, my guess tablet is that Yu Darvish probably has not had more than 60 wins in his major league career. And I was sort of thinking about Jeff Samardzija, the guy who everybody always says, he's got such great stuff, but then his record doesn't really indicate that. And let's see, Yu Darvish baseball reference. I go right to that and see if I can get a record here real quick. Yeah, Yu Darvish is 57 wins, 45 losses on his career. Let's see if I can find when he started. First year, 2012. So 6 years. So I said I don't think he's got more than 60 wins. He's got 57. And by my reckoning, you're talking about throwing $126 million at a guy who's averaging a little better than 9 wins per year that he's been in the league, and about 7.
Now he lost. Didn't he lose a year to Tommy John?
Let's see, 2000. He lost 2015.
He lost. Yeah.
So, but here's the other thing. When you look at that, that's a great point, Jim. Started out 16-9, 13-9, 10-7 with the Rangers. Lost that year. Came back 7-5. Had a combined between Texas and L.A. Last year 10-12, and so far this year with the Cubs 1-3. I thought he hadn't won a game yet.
No, he's 1-3.
1-3. So and you're looking at really. So breaking it down for 162 games, you're talking about a guy who would be 14-11 based on a 162 game schedule, according to what Baseball Reference is showing. My whole thing is, another guy with great stuff, but hasn't really produced a whole lot of wins and losses. Even in his best year, he was only 4 games over 500. So. Yeah. And you know what's possible, Jim? When a guy comes over from, in this case, he comes from Japan. Does the season in Japan compare to the season in the States as far as the number of games, the travel, everything involved?
I don't think the travel is quite the same, and I've never really gone into any depth looking at the
at their scheduling.
the schedule and the composition of the league and that. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy who last year between two teams was 10-12.
Mm-hmm.
He was under 500 with Texas. He pitched effectively for the Dodgers, relatively effectively for the Dodgers, but had a terrible World Series.
When we got Yu Darvish, I sort of felt the same way as when we got Jason Hayward. It was like, we signed Jason Hayward. That's fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. But it's not like the previous year when Hayward was with the Cardinals that you said, ooh, my God, we're in trouble now. The Cards got Jason Hayward.
Yeah.
Last year when the Dodgers picked up Yu Darvish at the trade deadline, not that we were direct competition with the Dodgers to get into the playoffs at that point. And I'm thinking, okay, but is that going to be a huge difference for the Dodgers? I really didn't think so. In my heart of hearts, Jim, I didn't think so.
I thought, oh, okay, he's good.
Yeah.
It could be a good pickup. But then when he had that really disastrous World Series.
Yeah, he did. He had a tough World Series.
Tough World Series, and then they're going. Well, we're going to pick. When they said, "Oh, they're going after Yu Darvish," I'm kind of going, "Are you sure?" Yeah,
well, especially now when you look at it, what did Arrieta signed for? 3 years?
3 years.
And Darvish signed for how much? 5?
5
at 126.
5 with an option, I believe.
So
I'll tell you what it is. Okay, he's getting 25. He's getting 25 million this year.
Okay,
20 million is scheduled for 2019, and he can opt out of the contract. Well, it says can opt out of the contract following the 2019 season. I don't know whose side that is. And then 2020 and 2021, 22 million, 2022, 19 million, 2023, 18 million.
So, in other words, his contract sort of de-escalates instead of escalates.
That's usually, a lot of times that's the way it goes. And you're also going to have to figure out that by the time he gets to the end of the contract, if he goes to the end of the contract, he'll be 36 years old.
And Arrieta is 32 and signed a 3-year deal, so he would be 35 or 36 at the end of his, and he's making 20. Well, I don't know what the ins and outs of his contract are, but it's 3 years for 75 mil. So it's less total, and it's probably maybe more on a yearly basis. It's an interesting thing, and. I don't know. I know you don't read the paper, but last week.
No, I look at the Tribune online.
Okay, when Chris Jimenez came up, and they were, and there's been all this talk about Darvish, and they were teammates and friends and whatnot, and they talked about Darvish's toughness, and he says, this guy is like a bulldog. I mean, he's out there, which maybe in this case is not working for him because the more setbacks he has, depending on the person's real makeup, some people that motivates, other people just gets them too ticked off and they can't operate at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know which one of those people Yu Darvish is, but it may be having a negative effect, the fact that he's a tough competitor.
Right.
So
Jake Arrieta right now is 5-3 with a 2.66 ERA.
Yeah.
Nice whip, and a lot of things I'm looking at it just compared to last year. Some of the other analytics show a lot of improvement over last year.
See, I think when you look at how about the eyeball test, if you want to look at it that way, the way I look at Jake is whether things are going good or bad, it doesn't seem Jake's got the same attitude all the time. He's going to compete.
He's absolutely. There's you're talking a bulldog here,
and I think Darvish probably is a competitor, but how he takes the ups and downs may be a little bit different way than Jake does it.
Okay.
So,
all right,
it's tough.
Arrieta. Arrieta has signed. Actually, it's a 5-year deal, The last 2 years are a $20 million team option, and the option price may increase based on performance in 2018 and 2019. It's $30 million this year, $25 million next year. Can opt out of the contract following the 2019 season, and the club can void the opt-out and exercise both option years following the 2019 season.
Okay.
But, yeah, 2019, $25 million, and then 20, 21, and 22, $20 million with the team options.
You know,
and he'll be
now
30,
that you,
and he'll be 36 then.
Now that you know, read the details of both of the contracts, it doesn't seem like either of those contracts would really be totally unfriendly to the team. I mean, if either of these guys, say if Jake is, you know, going to flame out, you know, the Phillies can opt out in, 2019, or both of them can opt out in 2019?
They can opt out of the contract. He can opt out of the contract following the 2019 season.
Okay.
And the club can void the opt-out and exercise both option years following the 2019 season. So what is that? That means here's $40 million, go away.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the part that the Cubs would be shying away from.
That very much could be the case, and I think in a lot of instances, the Cubs are more concerned about they don't want to be in that luxury tax.
Yeah.
Situation, and they don't want to bind themselves up because, honestly, I think they're probably going to make a run at Bryce Harper after the season.
I don't know. Honestly, that doesn't excite me much. I know a lot of people they get their shorts in a bunch when they think about that, but I really don't care.
I'm kind of looking at it and going,
and do what?
Okay, and?
Yeah.
And what do we do then?
Yeah. Honestly, well, it's just like a couple weeks ago there was, I guess because he was coming to town, you know, the idea of the Cubs or the Sox making some kind of deal for Manny Machado was back.
That's
and
another.
I'm thinking, you know what? And I believe, not that I disbelieve what Epstein says. I mean, I think he's basically pretty straight up with the press. But he said, where is this coming from? I mean, we don't have any talks going on right at the moment.
It's May. You're not talking. Yeah. You're not talking trades in May, and quite frankly, unless you can get him to
agree to a long-term thing,
where
you're renting him
right now, what's going to happen? You give up Addison Russell and pitching prospect in the minor leagues.
Dylan Maples, and there was other guy.
Yeah, Adalbert.
I didn't see his name come into it.
You know, that was one name. But, I mean, I kind of look at that and go, Bryce Harper, 18 home runs, 40 RBIs, 227 hitter, 365 on base, 517 slugging. His OPS, 882.
Jim, for me, it has nothing to do with, I mean, I understand that Bryce Harper is a very good player. He has had, I think was not last season, but the season before, he had a little bit of a down year. And this year, he's had, at least batting average-wise, he's having a little bit of a down year. My feeling is this: how does a guy really fit into your lineup, or what does he actually do for your team? And here's the other thing: if you throw, you've got say Schwarber, Almora, Happ, all young players that are pretty much sharing the outfield with Zobrist and Hayward. And those are your guys that Happ, Almora, and Schwarber are your guys you've drafted. You think highly of them. Those are guys that you don't want to continue to have to be not everyday players. At some point, when Zobrist and Hayward, who are both veterans, are gone, retired, or they move on in some other way, those are the guys, in my mind, you would like to see in your outfield. So how does Harper help that situation? He's not going to share time with anybody. So now these guys are going to continue to share time, which is probably not what you want.
Really, no.
And, I look at it the same way with Addison Russell. I understand. I'm not, Machado has always got great numbers. So far, those numbers have not included any real success with the team he's already with in terms of playoffs or championships. Addison Russell has already shown that he is a very good player on a championship caliber team. The other thing I think of, I don't know exactly what Machado's defense is, but there are some people say that he's a better third baseman than a shortstop. We know that Addison Russell is an excellent shortstop. And one of the Cubs' big things is they play excellent defense.
They do.
So my point would be is, on the face of it, Manny Machado looks to be a stronger player than Addison Russell. But when you really analyze it, really, how much stronger?
How much stronger? It's true. Looking at Harper, 2015, 42 home runs, 99 RBIs, 330 hitter was the MVP.
Right.
2016, 24 home runs, 86 RBIs, 243 hitter.
That's the year I'm talking about, yeah.
2017, must have been injuries. Yeah, there was some injuries last year, 111 games. 29 home runs, 87 runs batted in, 319 hitter, 413 on base percentage, 595 slugging. This year, to date, 18 home runs, leading the league right now in home runs. 18 home runs, 40 RBIs in 59 ball games. 227 hitter, 365 on base percentage, 517 slugging.
I think the big thing when you start to talk about guys like Harper or Machado is, they may be great guys. They may fit in your clubhouse. That might not be an issue. But what is the effect on your team overall? And here's what I like to say. I like to have a lineup that sort of fits. When you throw Bryce Harper in the mix, what does that do, say, now where does Bryant and Rizzo go in the lineup? Where does Harper go in the lineup?
Right.
Where does Schwarber go in the lineup?
Right.
I mean, how does that all play out?
Right.
We
and I'm looking at Harper's stats here. Where does he play?
He plays what?
Right field.
Yeah.
Right field. So.
Yeah. There's the other thing, though.
What are you going to
I don't see Hayward
what are you gonna do
with the
with Hayward?
contract he's got going anywhere.
No.
The other thing is, I got to tell you, I'm not like a lot of people are like, Hayward, what did they pay him all that money for? Yeah, I get that. I see what they're saying. The offensive production hasn't been there, although as of late he's been hitting. But when I look at what he throws out there defensively, I'm like, you know what? Bryce Harper might be good, but I doubt if he's a better defensive player than Hayward.
I know. That's the same thing. I would agree with you on that. I was trying to go back and find Hayward's numbers.
Hayward's hitting like 260 something right now. He's been on a little roll for about a week or so. So he pumped his numbers up from the 220s to the 260s.
I thought it was interesting, too, talking about hitting, and we'll talk about this because I'm looking at the bottom of the hour, and John is giving me the look like it's time for a station break.
Goody.
You're listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, June 11th with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro.
Okay, yeah, Hayward's hitting 264 right now, and he hit 259 last year.
Okay.
Contract-wise, this will be the thing that maybe you look at this, and this is not exactly a contract. I'm guessing this is not exactly a contract people want to take on, especially with the way he's been hitting compared to what they thought he would get out of him. He signed the deal he signed was for 8 years. This year, 2018, $28,166,667. 2019, it drops down to $20 million, and he has the right to opt out of the contract following the 2019 season if he has 550 plate appearances that year. So
That's interesting.
yeah, that's
Well, I don't. Yeah, that's and in the case of the Cubs, who I think obviously are genuinely interested in winning, I doubt he's going to get 550 plate appearances. If everything, and he's definitely not getting 550 if Bryce Harper shows up.
no.
So you'd be stuck with that contract if you don't like it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, fielding this year. Well, he's actually got 3 errors this year. So his overall fielding is 978, but again, that's 44 games. As they would say, that's a small sample size. 2017, his overall fielding percentage was 992. 2016, 993. 2015, when he was with the Cardinals, 990. He's always been very consistent. I think the thing that everyone looks at with Jason Hayward is those years in Atlanta. A couple of those years in Atlanta, 18 home runs, 27 home runs. 1 year he was in St. Louis, it was only 13 home runs.
Yeah, what was his batting average?
293, though. That's the issue.
I think, I've heard, I don't know if you told me or if I read this, but I heard that when he came to the Cubs, they messed with his swing. And I don't know, sometimes that's, maybe you never get it back or maybe you eventually get it back. But there's definitely, I know he's trying, and I know he's he's not just taking the money and running, but he doesn't have a lot of balls that I see when he's playing that get hit really hard, and I'd have more hope for him eventually getting back to the hitter he was if I saw him hit the ball on the button more, but he doesn't seem to do that as often as you'd like to see him do it. And I have to believe that they did work on his swing, and I don't know, didn't work out. So I tell you what, I think the addition of Chili Davis, though, I see a difference in the way the Cubs are approaching their hitting as opposed to who was the previous hitting
John
coach?
Maley. John Maley. Maley. John Maley.
And what from what I've read, he was a guy who was very conscious of the what do you call
launch
it?
angle.
The launch angle.
There was an article about that because he's with the Phillies now.
Okay, he's with the Phillies. Yeah.
He's with the Phillies. And he was very much the launch angle, and this is what you do to do this. And it was interesting. They come to town yesterday, and Madden, in his pregame press conference, I didn't listen to the whole details, but I kind of got the impression that they viewed the issue of launch angle as not.
They didn't like it.
He didn't like it.
Yeah.
Joe didn't like it.
Yeah.
Joe didn't like the idea of a launch angle. So the fact that you've got somebody now maybe being the more traditional.
I think Chili Davis definitely is more traditional. With as far as that goes, you know what? Madden there was a new book about Madden out, and I read part of it, and then somebody took it out at the library. But he and Chili Davis go back to the days when Madden was a coach with the Angels.
Right.
And in his book, he even mentions that I don't remember who the hitting coach with California was at the time, but Madden also likes to instruct hitting-wise and is supposed to be good at that. So Madden and whoever the hitting coach was and Chili Davis all sort of combined to help the hitters when they needed it when he was with the Angels. And he's got a lot of respect for Chili. And I think Madden and Davis are on the same page as far as the approach that they take to hitting. And I've heard, I think Bryant for sure, and I don't know who else, but where they're saying, let's throw some of this analytics type of stuff out the window and go back to, these are my words, real type of baseball. And I think you're seeing, I don't know, the Cubs don't seem to be hitting as many home runs. They haven't got on a super roll, but we're not doing super terrible either.
As I look at one of the, quote, analytics that sometimes is very good about predicting where a team should be, the Pythagorean one-loss theory that's based using runs scored and runs allowed. What it tells me right now is the Cubs are underperforming by about 4 games. Based on that, they should be 37-20, and they're 33-24.
Okay.
So how the hell that translates all back? Oops, I said a bad word, John.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my God. I called the priest. How that translates to what they're doing now, I don't know. I think, again, you're looking at, what are we looking at here? 57 games.
Yeah.
I think by now you're starting to get an idea of what the trends may be.
Did you? I wanted to ask you,
and I don't know how they compare. Okay. Oh, good. Here, let's compare where they are right now to the other teams in the National League. Second in runs scored, third in hits, second in doubles, third in triples, ninth in home runs. Maybe that's what's off. And that's,
Does it give you anything? I know that they're not hitting as well with runners in scoring position as they should be.
No, I haven't seen any stat on that, but batting average, 265 as a team, first. 346 on base percentage, first.
Okay.
431 slugging percentage, first.
Interesting. So when he says, and he meaning Madden says, he feels it's just a matter of time before they get on a roll, he's got some good numbers right there to back him up.
I think he's got the numbers to back him up. I think the thing that I would probably be more concerned about as far as the Cubs as a team,
pitching, pitching.
You're 14th, and talking about the overall pitching staff now. I don't know how the relievers compare to everything, but I'm just looking at the overall pitching staff, and you are 14th in walks, 247 walks.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Other than Chatwood, though, who's been having I guess maybe Darvish has contributed to that.
Darvish, looking at this, Darvish is 21 walks and 49 strikeouts. 21 walks and 40 innings.
Okay.
Quintana sometimes is, really right on the button. Other times you go out there and you look at him and go, what is he doing?
Well, you know what, though, Jim? I think if you look at Quintana over the years, I mean, Quintana was a hard luck guy in one sense with the White Sox, but in the other sense, because he was hard luck, I think they oversold him a little bit as the type of pitcher he is. I think you have a good, solid guy where he is in the rotation in the 3 spot, and you're going to get those good and bad days out of that guy.
Get that, yeah. I would personally like to see when all this sifts out with Darvish, and I heard a clip of an interview this morning with the pitching coach that he played catch yesterday.
That's what I
from
heard.
90 feet.
Yeah.
And he said they're going to do that a couple of more times, and then they're going to get him out on the mound.
Yeah, he's going to have to go for a rehab.
Rehab. So he said this is probably going to be another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What I would like to see right now, as far as their rotation, is you stick Chatwood in the bullpen and hand the ball to Montgomery as your fourth starter.
Oh, for sure. Oh, well, no. Chatwood would have to stay in the
Chatwood in the bullpen.
Oh, you're saying Chatwood
after all this.
But it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not. You're not. Plus, you're not going to bring a guy in from the pen that's walking as many guys as he is. That's just, you're better off walking him as a starter because at least you can get out of that.
You can get out of it, and you have some effective bullpen help. And Justin Wilson looks like...
Yeah, he's probably walked quite a few. You know what? I'll tell you.
30 strikeouts, 19 walks in 23 innings. Yeah, the ratio's a little high.
I continue to hear people knock Joe Madden. The more I see Joe Madden managed, the more outstanding the job that I think he does. I mean, when you consider that you've got, we just named, Schwarber, Almora, Happ, Zobrist, Hayward. You got Bryant, Russell, Baez in the infield. La Stella, of course, Rizzo is basically your first baseman. But to juggle about 10 or what do we name? To juggle like 10 or 11 guys and get them enough playing time, and keep them effective is not it's not an easy job. I don't think, and I think he's. My opinion is I don't agree. Obviously, I'm not going to agree with everything he does, but you know what? Just trying to keep all of these guys in a little bit, giving them enough time so that they can, they can have their at bats, stay in the flow, be in the loop, if you want to put it that way, is not that easy to do. And I think he does a good job of. He's been
doing a very good job and a very good, effective job of handling players, especially one, as I'm looking at his numbers, is Ben Zobrist.
Yeah, Zobrist is
getting him his at bats, not overworking him.
Right.
And Zobrist is hitting .304 right now.
Well, I was thinking about Ben Zobrist the other day, and I got to tell you, the wrist problem he had last year really, it looked almost like he was through. I mean, he did not look good, but you know what? Obviously, that wrist is healed, and Ben Zobrist is still as effective a player as he's been.
Oldest guy on the team right now.
Yep. I mean, but really good. He plays the two corner outfield positions. He plays second. I'm sure he can play third. He could probably play short if he had to in a pinch. He's done that.
I think he's been used at first too.
At first, so really good guy to have. I just don't see. Jim, did you see the thing? Maybe you didn't look at the paper today, and I'm not segueing, but I'm comparing. Michael Kempney, the old Blackhawk, is having a really good run with the Capitals and looks like he's going to be on a Stanley Cup winner. And the interesting thing there is that the GM for Washington, whose name escapes me, was saying, this was a guy that we really wanted. It wasn't a major move, but it worked perfectly for us. And why I'm saying this is, everybody's talking trades with the Cubs, Machado coming here and this, that, and the other thing. Addison Russell going someplace else. It could be that the Cubs, at the trade deadline, maybe they would make a minor deal that could possibly pan out the way Kempney has panned out for the Capitals.
I would be surprised if it's anything major.
I don't think it'll be anything major either.
I think it's going to be a little tune-up. And it's also going to depend on where they are. Yeah.
Well, they're going to be, they're going to be challenging, or they're going to be in the hunt. There's no question.
Yeah. They got to the point last year when before the All-Star break, and you're under 500, game or two under 500, or right around 500. You're about 5 games back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the question was posed to Theo: are you going to be a seller? Or are you going to be a buyer?
Yeah.
Going to be where we are.
Yeah.
It's going to determine that.
Yeah. Well, I think, though, the Cubs are, I think they believe in the people that they have there. And I don't know how much of a seller or buyer they would be in any case, because you know what? To me, you got to bank on these guys that they brought through the system, the guys who are there. Chicago fans, and, it may not just be Chicago fans, but we're from Chicago, are totally, not totally, but they're a little loony about the Cubs. When the Cubs won the World Series, great. I think they were expecting that they'd romp through the league every year and win the World Series. It's just too difficult. This run that the Cubs are on, from 2016 is it till
15?
15, I should say, till now, is phenomenal. Look at the way they're winning, Jim. I mean, and they're up there. They've been in the league championship series 3 years in a row. I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the back there again this year.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
So, you know what? Just let the guys who are making the decisions make the decisions, and quit throwing crazy crap into the into the air here.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious. I was looking at Lester's contract. Now, when he signed in 2015, that 7-year deal. 27.5 this year, 27.5 next year, $20 million in 20, and when he's 37 years old and 21, there's a $25 million team option and a $10 million buyout option, guaranteed with 200 innings in 2020 or 400 innings in 2019 and 2020.
Jim, Sunday I was at the local tavern and watching the
you in a tavern
NBA. Championship series, and Jimmy Cusack was there, and he said his comment was, the Warriors just have too much talent for the Cavaliers to overcome. And I said, I agree with you, Jim. I just don't see the Cavs being able to do it. I mean, anything can happen. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have dark horses that end up winning, although most of the time when dark horses win, I don't think they're quite as dark a horse as you think they are, but
no, that's true.
But the point would be here, talking about the Cubs, is the Cubs just have too much talent to be anywhere but in the hunt. That doesn't mean they're going to win all the time. And you know what? Maybe things could go south this year, and they won't be in the championship series. But they got too much talent to to totally fade.
You look at it and you think. I think at the beginning of the year, I looked at the team. I said, this team, again, on paper, you look at this team and say, this could be better than 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the pitching.
Yeah.
But, and I think I heard the phrase in an interview when it was kind of a tough start in a radio interview with Theo on, that he said, you plan. The beginning of the year, you're going over this, you're going over that, you're looking at everything. Yeah. He said, but
it never turns out that way.
He said, but sometimes baseball just doesn't baseball.
Yeah, it just,
things happen.
Yeah.
Injuries, guys don't perform up to what you expect them to perform.
Yeah, no, it happens.
Things can happen.
Hey, I have to ask you this, Jim, because I see your turn to the NBA story in the paper. Yeah, I just
wanted to glance at it here for a second. I wanted to see if the game was tonight. Yeah.
The announcers on the NBA game on Sunday, Van Gundy especially, was giving me the biggest laughs. He's talking about I'm good, John, thank you. He's talking about, I guess Draymond Green was vociferously arguing a call,
Draymond
and using some colorful language.
Draymond Green does everything vociferously.
he's a great guy to have on your team. I wish he was on the Bulls. I wish the Bulls would have been able to have Draymond Green when he was, because he was a 4-year senior, right, at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Look, this guy, I don't care what anybody says about him, one of the most valuable guys in the league is Draymond Green. Okay,
I agree.
But I have to tell you, so Van Gundy is talking about a double standard. How's he getting away with this type of talk? And then they're talking about LeBron being a guy who never argues or complains. I go, are you kidding me? That's all he does is complain. There was a play, Jim, in the game.
One of the great floppers.
And this is what caused Green. This is what caused Green to go off. LeBron knocks one of the Warriors down, trips over him, and he's pointing at the guy like he wants the foul to be called on. He knocked the guy down, okay? Tripped over him, and he's pointing at the guy for a foul. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then, guess what? He actually got his way, and I think the Cavs ended up I'm sorry. I think he did not get his way. I think the Warriors ended up shooting some free throws because I don't know if he got a technical or whatever. But I'm like, you must be kidding me. I said, LeBron doesn't complain?
This is an interesting final because you have the greatest player in the game right now versus the greatest team in the game right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost a shame that LeBron has a bunch of stiffs around him. Well, Kevin Love has some good games.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. But a lot of them, you looked at J.R. Smith in the first game.
That was pathetic.
That was pathetic, and I had a good laugh. The other day because somebody retweeted something, and I had to go look at the tweet, and I got a big laugh out of it because there was the picture of LeBron from that game one yelling at J.R. Smith and that look on his face.
Yeah.
And I looked at who retweeted it, and I looked at the comment. Jay Williams. Remember Jay Williams? Played for the Bulls
yeah, sure.
and played, 2 years? Had that horrible motorcycle accident and ended his career.
What did Jay Williams have to say?
He put a comment. He commented, "My agent to me, Jay, this is what happens when you ride your motorcycle." And the comments were, he said, "It's good you can laugh at this, and it's good that you went on." I think he's probably doing TV, I'm sure, and he's a very personable guy. But just the simple thing that
Jay is doing TV.
Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he was. That he says it's good that you can laugh at this.
You know what's funny, Jim? Every time Jim Kelly all of a sudden has become a big LeBron fan, and you know what? When I don't see LeBron, I almost become convinced that he's close to Michael Jordan. But when I actually watch him play, I understand he can score a ton of points, and I'm not saying the man is not an excellent player.
51 points in that first game.
And he made a pass in the game on Sunday where he alley-ooped it to somebody, and beautiful. I mean, perfect. But overall, there's no way. There's no way. He's not even close. I mean, because they talk about LeBron these days. What passes for defense? LeBron, really good defensive player. I watch him on defense, Jim. He doesn't do a thing.
Nobody
does. Nobody does.
Nobody does now.
Once in a while he gets inspired if he sees he could pick off a pass or block a shot.
Nobody plays defense
now. But I go,
now.
Are you kidding me? Michael was a hound. I mean, he was playing both ends full speed all the time. I don't see LeBron doing it. I just don't see it.
The comment that was made, I guess, after that game one, that it was one of the most efficient games a player ever had in the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
That he scored 51 points on 32 shots.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh because somebody had a clip on from the overnight on the score where Les got into an argument with the engineer that Jordan had a better game against Phoenix when he scored 55 points.
Mm-hmm.
And, he says he wasn't, LeBron wasn't efficient. Jordan was more efficient.
Mm.
Yeah. And the guy looked it up, and he goes, how many shots did he take? Well, Jordan took 37 shots to score 55 points. Well, it was a better game because Jordan won the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where it sounded like one of those, well, I know you are, but what am I kind of arguments. But it was less. It was the grabber.
Yeah.
And, well, I was there. I saw it.
Yeah. For me, it's just I'll tell you what. There's two things I always tell people. Michael Jordan is definitely better than LeBron. Kobe was the closest thing to Michael that I've seen, but the most talented player I've ever seen and I ever hope to see, the most dominant player, if you would have put him in a different uniform in his time in the NBA, he would have been unbeatable with the Celtics, is you switch Bill Russell with Wilt Chamberlain. Bill Russell calls himself the world's greatest winner, and I'm not detracting Bill Russell was a great player. You put Wilt Chamberlain on the Celtics and Bill Russell on the 76ers or Warriors, Wilt Chamberlain would never lose. I mean, you put him with 5 or 6 Hall of Fame. That guy was the most talented player I've ever seen. Maybe talented might be the wrong word. The biggest force I've ever seen in the NBA.
That era,
Yeah.
nobody was like him.
No.
And you didn't know what to do during that period of time. I always think of the story. John, I know, would be talking up Derrick Rose right now. But I always remember the story that you didn't know how to handle him and what to do. And Johnny Kerr told a story when he was playing for Syracuse. Across the street from where they played, there was a bar, and they'd always go over there after the game.
Mm-hmm.
He said in the bar, the owner of the bar thought I was a great guy, really liked me, and he said I came in there that after a game when Chamberlain came to town for the first time. He said, "Hey, there's my guy Red. How'd you do tonight, Red? 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists or whatever. Well, all right, Red, here. First one's on me. That." And he says, "By the way, what did Chamberlain have?" And he went, 55. He took my drink away.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I miss Red. He was always fun.
Well, he was he was a fine player.
He was a good ball player in his day. Yes,
for
he
sure.
was.
I mean, there was, I don't know. I was talking to my son one day, and he goes, Wilt Chamberlain played back then, and they didn't have anybody. I said, really? I go, well, let's start off with Bill Russell. Bob Lanier, Zelmo Beatty, Walt Bellamy. I'm missing somebody here that should be obvious. Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Later on. Yeah.
I mean,
but by then, by the time Jabbar came in the league, Chamberlain was there for 11 years.
Yeah. Willis Reed is
Willis Reed.
Wes Unseld.
Sure.
I said, you talking about that league? That league, almost. I'm not saying every team, but that was a league full of star big men. I mean, there were, So
yeah. And it was interesting. I had this normal discussion. I was at the architect's office yesterday, and the other one guy who works there, I had to hear about, LeBron is no good. LeBron doesn't have the killer instinct. I hate LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep telling him I need to see if we can get you a scholarship to sports re-education camp. I said, you just look at the fact that you've got the greatest player in the game right now.
Right now, for sure.
He is the greatest in this era.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Everybody is going to have an era that somebody's going to shine.
Sure.
Maybe baseball might be the exception, where, the players from the 20s, would they be successful now? Yeah, probably. Would the players from today be successful back in the 20s? Maybe not. They'd be sitting there trying to figure out launch angles and bat speed and BOBIP and FIP and,
Well, I would say this. I'm not a big guy for, but I'll say this. LeBron, I don't think he's as good as Michael. That's all I'll say. And I'm prejudiced for Michael. I'll say that as well. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You want to talk about the top 10 players that have ever played the game? I'm not going to say in the top 5 or one of the top 2. But I'll use 10. That's my measuring stick. LeBron's in the top 10. and I'm not even a LeBron fan, but he's in the top 10 for sure. So
There is a Facebook discussion group called Cooperstown Discussion, and I'm getting to the point where I need to delete myself from it because it's getting too meatbally. But somebody started today that he says he thinks the Hall of Fame, he says, what's your size for the Hall of Fame? I think there should be the 25 greatest players at each position would be members of the Hall of Fame. And somebody posed, well, then you're going to get arguments when you get down to 25 as to who's 26th and 27th, and why aren't they in there? And then maybe we should have the top 30 players. I said it's getting a little meatbally.
Yeah.
But your comment about LeBron being one of the greatest,
sure, definitely.
you can't
No
argue.
question
You
about
can't argue with that.
Yeah, I would never try to argue anything else.
Where was LeBron the best? Probably with I would think back and look at it, and I'd go probably with Miami because of what was around him.
Yeah, I mean
That was probably where he was his best.
yeah. Although I mean he's been, even though they were able to win the one championship a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And probably he'll lose 3 out of these 4 between them and the Warriors. I mean, really, these last 4 years with the Cavs, you could argue he's been dominant.
Absolutely.
Although not ultimately successful, but dominant.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were even having a discussion on the radio that they would love, the only time anybody who was the MVP final, the final of the MVP in the NBA was Jerry West and was on a losing team.
Right.
And they said, gee, apparently somebody saw something on one of the offshore boards, Bovada or one of those, put some money down on LeBron being the MVP of the finals. And he said, I'm tempted to do this, but the Cavs are going to have to win at least probably 2 games for him to be even considered that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they're going to win one.
I'm not even sure if they're going to win one either. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to watch it tonight.
You know what? Though I keep in my mind, and this goes for both teams, the Warriors definitely are the team of this, whatever you want to call it, the 2000s, if you want to say it that way.
They're the Celtics of this age.
I keep thinking to myself, though, man, what would they do if they were up against the type of defenses that were being played back in the 90s and the 80s? Did you see the thing? I sent it out. I shared it with everybody a couple weeks ago. It was when Skip Bayless and who's he with? I can't remember who's
Sterling
Sharp.
Sharp.
Yeah. They're arguing.
They annoy me. I don't.
Somebody posted it.
Oh,
and
okay.
They were arguing Michael versus LeBron. And the one thing that really hit me, I don't remember all the stats. I know Michael, as of right now, has one more MVP, and that doesn't hit me one way or another.
No.
But he said he named the number of 50-win teams that in the time that the Bulls were dominant, that they had to play and face in the playoffs, versus the number that LeBron, with the teams he's been with, has faced.
I think I've heard this.
And it was not even close.
I've heard this. Yeah.
And I thought, that's meaningful to me, because when you're talking about you're playing quality teams to get there.
Yeah. And you're looking at the East, which has been down for quite a while. And I think, Michael had a tougher road with tougher teams to play.
Right.
And I think that's kind of leading to some of the talk about, instead of the Eastern Conference, the 8 teams from the East, 8 teams from the West, put 16 teams together and seed them that way.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get, and they talked about, well, if you would have done this last year, you would have only had 4 teams from the East or whatever it happened to be. But you'd be getting quality basketball.
Yeah. But I'd say this, in fairness to LeBron, as far as that goes, I mean, you can only play what's there to be played. So, I mean,
you got to play what's on your schedule.
Yeah, you can't.
And how it falls out.
Yeah. I mean, he has no say-so in that. So, But no, I mean, really, again, I'll say one of the greatest players ever to play, but I still like Michael better.
I do too.
So,
All right. I think we've yammered away for enough right now. We didn't even talk about the baseball draft. I'm sure you're excited about it.
actually, I was going to bring that up to you because I find the Sox
Nick
Madrigal. I find that fascinating, and I also
he's like 5'7".
Yeah, 5'7". Although I thought he made some good points. He said there's other, especially at the position he plays. You got Altuve and Pedroia both play that, and they're not big guys.
Yeah.
And neither were some of the other guys who were the greatest at that position.
No.
What I always find interesting, though, when I read the article in the Sun-Times about him the other day, of course, the writer, I should say, is already speculating. Of course, he can get stronger and he can develop that power. And I'm like, you know what? 5'7", 165. I mean, Altuve's got a lot of power, but what I'm saying is this: he can be really effective if he doesn't hit for power at all.
That's right.
I mean, if he's just a good hitter and on base guy, he'll be effective.
Yeah.
When I saw the Cubs draft pick, Nico Horner, the first thing I thought of was the old left-handed pitcher Joe Horner, and I thought maybe they were related. The article didn't mention that. But I think, I like, from what you could tell, and you can't tell much, I thought they were nice draft picks for both teams.
I thought so, too.
So
All right. I think we're going to get out of here. Is that okay, John? Yeah, John? Yeah, okay. That's fine. I've had enough of you guys. All right, let's wrap it up. Interesting discussion today.
Yeah.
I would say this was one of our better efforts.
Going right to the Broadcast Hall of Fame,
This
right,
one,
John?
just wrap this one up and send it to the Museum of Broadcast Communication. Put it in the Hall of Fame. We're ready. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll do this again probably a couple of weeks or so. Until that time, we are Taillights.
Chip, did you see...
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, June the 11th on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zefilik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, June the 6th, the year 2018. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.